What if I told you that not masturbating after the age of 60 could be quietly harming your health? Not because of guilt, shame, or morality, but because your body may rely on it more than you think. Over the years, I've seen countless older men, once strong, alert, and full of life, slowly decline into fatigue, illness, and silent suffering. And often, it began when they stopped engaging in something completely natural, simply because they believed they no longer should. But here's the truth. Giving up masturbation in later life comes at a cost. And for some men, that cost can be devastating, even fatal. I'm Dr. Mohit Kara, a urologist and men's health specialist with over 60 years of clinical experience. I've treated thousands of older men across the country, and I'm here to say, this is a conversation that matters more than most are willing to admit. Everyone warns about doing it too much, but no one tells you the danger of not doing it at all. In this video, I'll reveal 5 serious consequences of giving up masturbation in old age and what you can do to protect your body and mind. If you're over 60, this might be one of the most important health lessons you'll ever hear. Let's begin. Before we go any further, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip that could protect your body, your confidence, and your legacy. And if this message speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and let me know how I can serve you better. Now that you understand what's at stake, let's take a closer look at the 5 real consequences older men face when they stop masturbating and the serious price they may unknowingly pay. 1. Your prostate begins to rebel. Inflammation, pressure, and pain. I still remember the look in Mr. Harold's eyes, 74 years old, widowed, soft-spoken, when he sat across from me in my office and said, "I thought I was doing the right thing, Doc. I thought giving it up was what a man was supposed to do." His voice cracked with confusion, frustration, and a touch of fear. He had been experiencing constant pressure in his lower abdomen, getting up 5 or 6 times a night to urinate, and quietly suffering with a pain he couldn't explain. It wasn't until we ran some tests that the answer became painfully clear. His prostate was inflamed, congested, and on the verge of infection. This isn't rare.
I see it often. As a urologist, I can tell you with complete certainty that the prostate is not meant to sit idle. It's an organ designed to be emptied regularly. When it isn't, whether because of abstinence, shame, or simply the belief that it's no longer necessary, things begin to back up. The fluid thickens, the ducts swell, and eventually inflammation takes hold.
When older men stop masturbating completely, they unknowingly invite this process. The early signs often seem harmless, a little more urgency, a few more bathroom trips, a slight discomfort they chalk up to age, but the price grows quietly until it becomes unbearable. In more advanced cases, this stagnant buildup can lead to prostatitis, a painful condition that often requires antibiotics, catheterization, or even hospitalization. Some men suffer for months before seeking help, embarrassed to talk about something they were taught to suppress. What pains me most is that it's preventable. Something as simple, natural, and private as regular ejaculation, whether through sex or self-stimulation, can significantly lower the risk of prostate complications. But when this function is neglected, the consequences are anything but minor. This isn't just about discomfort. It's about infection, bladder dysfunction, even surgery, and in the worst cases, long-term damage to the urinary system that can make a man feel helpless and ashamed. Harold told me later, "If someone had just explained this to me 10 years ago, I wouldn't be in this mess." That statement echoes in my mind often, so I'm saying it to you now clearly, directly, and without shame. Neglecting your prostate has a guide. And for too many men, that cost is paid in pain, in sleepless nights, and in dignity lost when it could have been preserved. But this is only the beginning. That's T. Because what happens in your prostate is just one part of a much larger, more dangerous shift inside your body. and it involves the very hormone that defines male vitality. Let me show you exactly what I mean. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now, let's move on to point number 2. 2. Your testosterone drops faster than you think. I once treated a retired firefighter named James. Strong, proud, and used to pushing through pain. But over the last year, something had shifted in him. He wasn't sleeping well. He had gained weight around his midsection. He was exhausted by midday and had lost all motivation. The worst part, he told me, "I don't even feel like myself anymore, Doc. It's like something just faded." After testing his hormone levels, the results didn't surprise me, but they shook him. His testosterone had dropped to levels I normally see in men 10, even 15 years older. When I asked about his lifestyle, everything sounded normal until we got to intimacy. James had shut down sexually after his wife passed. No sex, no self-touch, nothing. He said he just didn't see the point anymore. But the body isn't wired to just shut that system off without consequences. Testosterone, the very hormone that fuels male energy, confidence, mental clarity, and strength, is deeply connected to sexual activity. And when a man completely stops engaging in any sexual release, his body gets the message, reproduction is no longer needed. So it stops producing the fuel that once kept him alive and thriving. The decline doesn't always happen overnight, but it is real. Testosterone is responsible for maintaining lean muscle mass, regulating fat distribution, boosting red blood cell production, supporting mood, and protecting against bone loss. Without it, a man begins to shrink, not just physically, but emotionally. His spirit dulls, his edge softens. The cost isn't just a number on a lab test. The price is your energy, your willpower, your sense of identity. I've watched countless older men come into my office complaining about aging too fast, when in fact their real problem was silent hormonal starvation. And it was completely avoidable. Regular balanced masturbation, even if only once or twice a week, can help sustain testosterone levels by keeping the body's sexual feedback loop active. It's not about chasing pleasure. It's about preserving your chemistry, your strength, and your stability. James left my office that day with a renewed understanding and a new routine. 6 months later, he was 12 lb lighter, sleeping through the night, and smiling again. "I didn't know how much I was missing," he told me. "I thought I was just getting old, but I was actually shutting myself down." And here's the thing. Once testosterone starts to fall, something else follows close behind. Something more subtle, more emotional, and just as destructive. It's the quiet loss of joy, peace, and balance. The emotional cost of disconnection. Let me show you what happens when your spirit starts to dim. 3. You become more irritable, anxious, and emotionally flat. I'll never forget the day Walter came to see me. He was 68, retired, married for over 40 years, and to the outside world, he seemed like the picture of calm. But behind his steady voice, I could feel the tension. He said, "I don't know what's wrong with me, Doc. I'm snapping at my wife. I can't focus. I wake up in the middle of the night for no reason. I don't even enjoy the little things anymore." Then he looked down and quietly added, "And I haven't felt the urge in a long time." What Walter was describing wasn't uncommon. In fact, it's something I hear more often than people would ever imagine. When a man disconnects from his sexual self, not just physically, but emotionally, his brain chemistry starts to change. Dopamine, the chemical of motivation and pleasure, begins to drop. Oxytocin, the hormone that fosters connection and bonding, isn't released. Endorphins, nature's painkillers and mood boosters, fade into the background. And gradually, without even realizing it, a man starts to feel hollow inside. The cost of ignoring this part of your biology is deeper than mood swings or the occasional bad day. It begins to affect your relationships, how you speak to your partner, how much patience you have with your grandchildren, whether or not you feel connected to anything or anyone at all. You become short-tempered. Small frustrations feel overwhelming. You might laugh less, sleep less, care less. Not because life is suddenly worse, but because your body isn't producing the emotional fuel it once did. And the saddest part, most men don't even realize what's happening. They blame their age, the news, the aches in their knees, when the truth is, they've quietly shut off one of the most powerful regulators of their emotional well-being. Healthy, age-appropriate masturbation isn't just about the body. It's about balance. It's about keeping the emotional circuit active, connected, and alive. Walter started taking simple steps, reintroducing intimacy in a way that felt natural and respectful to himself. Within weeks, his wife called me and said, "Thank you. I have my husband back." That's the power of restoring something so personal and vital. But the emotional toll isn't the only risk. There's another danger that works silently from the inside out. One that doesn't just affect your mood, but your blood, your vessels, and even your brain. It's about what happens when your circulation slows and your entire body pays the price. Let's talk about that next. 4. Circulation weakens, and that's not just a bedroom problem. A few months ago, a gentleman named Leonard came in. He was 72, still sharp-minded, loved gardening, and took pride in staying active. But something had changed. "My legs feel heavier," he told me. "My hands get cold more often. I don't feel the same down there." He hesitated, then added, "It's not just about sex, Doc. I just feel disconnected from my body." That last sentence struck me because it revealed more than any test could. What many men don't realize is that healthy sexual activity, even in the form of masturbation, plays a vital role in maintaining pelvic blood flow. When that circulation slows, the consequences don't just show up in the bedroom, they ripple through your entire cardiovascular system. You might start with mild erectile dysfunction, but what follows is far more serious. Reduced oxygen to tissues, poorer bladder control, numbness, and a slow but steady decline in vascular health. In some men, these early symptoms are the first red flags of far greater issues: heart disease, hypertension, even stroke. The pelvic region houses not only the organs of intimacy, but the very vessels that feed your legs, your bladder, your prostate, and yes, even your brain. And when those vessels aren't exercised through arousal and release, they stiffen, they shrink, they weaken. What you once thought of as a private matter quickly becomes a full-body issue. Leonard's case wasn't unique. He had completely stopped all sexual activity after losing his wife, not because he didn't miss it, but because he thought it no longer mattered, but his body was keeping score. Blood tests showed increased inflammatory markers. Ultrasound revealed narrowing arteries in his lower body. The heaviness in his legs was circulation loss, and the disconnection he felt wasn't in his mind, it was physical. I told him gently, "This part of your health doesn't retire just because you do. Your body still wants to live." With some changes, gentle pelvic exercises, adjusted medication, and yes, safe regular masturbation, he began to feel warmth in his hands again. He said his balance even improved because when circulation returns, life follows. But what scares me most is how many men never reach this realization. They live with creeping weakness, blaming age, when in truth, they're starving their blood vessels. Yet there's still one consequence that's deeper than blood, deeper than pain, one that touches the very soul of a man. It's what happens when you lose connection not just with your body, but with your masculine identity. And that's what we need to face next. 5. You lose sexual confidence, even if you're not with a partner. There's a kind of silence I've come to recognize in men. A silence that isn't about peace, but about resignation. I saw it in Robert, a 79-year-old former teacher who came in for a routine checkup. He was in decent shape physically, no major complaints, but something about him felt dimmed. During our conversation, he hesitated and finally said, "I know this might sound strange, but I just don't feel like a man anymore." That sentence hit me hard because it's something I've heard far too often, just in different words, or sometimes in no words at all. When a man disconnects from his sexuality, even privately, over time, it begins to affect how he sees himself. You don't have to be in a relationship to feel this shift. You don't even need to crave intimacy with someone else. But when you stop engaging with your own body, when you stop exploring, expressing, and honoring that part of yourself, it starts to send a dangerous message to your mind that you're no longer a sexual being, that you've expired. This erosion of confidence doesn't happen overnight. It's subtle at first. Less interest in grooming, less motivation to engage socially, more self-doubt. You might begin to feel invisible, not just to others, but to yourself. And here's the dangerous part. When you lose your sexual confidence, you often lose your voice. You stop advocating for your needs. You avoid doctor visits. You downplay symptoms. You start living smaller, quieter, and less alive. The cost of this isn't just emotional. It affects your behavior, your health choices, even your will to recover when illness comes. I've seen men give up on rehabilitation after surgery simply because they no longer saw the point. They'd lost their spark, and with it, their fight. But it doesn't have to be this way. Reconnecting with yourself gently without shame can reignite a deep sense of worth. It reminds you that you're still here, still capable, still whole. Masturbation at this age is not about fantasy. It's about affirming your aliveness, about touching your own existence with kindness, with ownership, with dignity. When Robert started allowing himself that reconnection, something changed. He walked taller. His humor came back. And in his own words, "I felt like I had something to offer again." And that brings us to the final truth we must face. Because after all these consequences, the physical, the emotional, the hormonal, there's still one more question left to answer. What happens if you do nothing? What happens if you let these losses continue unchecked? Let's bring it all together in the conclusion. Conclusion: the price of silence, the power of choice. I've spent over 3 decades sitting across from men who thought they had no options left. Men who believed aging meant surrender, silence, and shame. But what I've learned time and time again is that it's not age that steals a man's vitality. It's disconnection. Disconnection from his body, from his instincts, from the very part of himself that once made him feel strong, whole, and alive. You've now seen what happens when masturbation is abandoned in old age. Not out of wisdom, but out of fear, stigma, or resignation. The prostate begins to rebel, swelling with fluid and inflammation. Testosterone, your internal engine, declines more rapidly, taking your energy and strength with it. Your mood shifts. Joy becomes irritability. Calm turns to anxiety, and the world begins to lose its color. Circulation falters, leading not just to physical weakness, but a vulnerability that affects your heart, brain, and bladder. And finally, perhaps most painfully, your sense of manhood, of being someone who still matters, begins to fade. These are not small sacrifices. These are the hidden prices men pay when they choose silence over self-care, and they're far more dangerous than most realize. But here's what I want you to hear clearly. It is never too late to reclaim that connection. Masturbation in your later years is not dirty, shameful, or childish. It is biological maintenance. It is a form of physical, emotional, and hormonal hygiene. It is a quiet, personal affirmation that your story is still being written, that you are still a man, still deserving of vitality, intimacy, and respect. If any part of this message stirred something in you, good. That means there's still fire inside you, and that fire deserves to burn. You don't need permission to begin again. You don't need anyone's approval to honor your own body. You only need the courage to recognize that staying alive isn't just about surviving. It's about feeling alive. So take that step not out of guilt, not out of habit, but out of love for the man you are and the life you still have to live. Because you haven't reached the end. You've just reached the part where you get to take your power back. If this message spoke to you, don't let it stop here. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health truth made for men like you. And in the comments type "I'm still alive" if you're ready to take back control of your health, your confidence, and your manhood starting today.